The nurse rehabilitated the cowboy, oblivious to the fact that he was the affluent benefactor of the town's sole hospital. "Are you still alive?" The man on the porch did not respond immediately. Clara Bennett knelt alongside him, her cotton nightgown adhering to her legs, drenched by the rain. The man lay prone, blood oozing from his temple, his clothing tattered and soiled, his boots abraded by gravel. An inverted, wide-brimmed hat rested near him, accumulating rainwater in its crest. "Sir, can you hear me?" she inquired, her tone laced with urgency. His digits quivered. Subsequently, with some difficulty, he turned onto his side. Rain cascaded along the defined contour of his jaw, cleansing some of the congealed blood. He blinked at her, his pupils dilated yet attentive. His lips articulated, scarcely producing words. "Refrain from contacting the authorities." Clara became immobilized. "What is it? Do you require a hospital?" "Only one night, please." She surveyed her surroundings. The forest outside the barn was silent, however, not in a tranquil manner. Silent as if something were suspending its respiration. She perceived it, the subdued rumble of an automobile traversing the forest. Illuminations oscillated in the distance, weaving among the pine trunks. "Who is pursuing you?" she murmured. He grimaced. "You are not inclined to acquire that knowledge." Clara rose, her heart racing. She seized his arm, elevating him with an unexpected force. "You must relocate immediately." "I am unable to do so." "You are capable, and you shall succeed." With his arm draped over her shoulder, they hobbled across the damp gravel yard to the rear of the barn. She exerted effort to unseal the hatch behind the antiquated horse trough, disclosing a concealed cellar first utilized for keeping feed during inclement weather. "Enter," she whispered sharply. He gazed at her, astonished. "Do you prefer to perish on my porch or survive to witness the sunrise?" With a distressed grunt, he descended into the hole just as headlights approached her property. She forcefully closed the wooden hatch and pulled an aged sheet over it. She inhaled, dried her hands on her drenched dress, and approached the barn's entrance as a black pickup truck entered her yard. 3 men exited, broad shoulders, black jackets, predatory gazes. "Even in a dressing, ma'am," said the driver, advancing with a courteous grin that failed to illuminate his eyes. "I apologize for disturbing you at this late hour. We are seeking an individual. May have entered this area in a limping manner." Clara squinted. "This constitutes private property, correct?" he remarked, maintaining his smile. "Inquire if you have observed a man, approximately 61 years old, wearing a cowboy hat, who is bleeding and has departed following an altercation." Clara folded her arms. "No one has visited this location." "Are you certain of that?" Another man inquired while approaching the barn. She advanced, her voice elevating. "I stated that I have not encountered anyone. I reside here alone and am not amenable to visitors traversing my property." The initial man elevated his hands in feigned capitulation. "No offense intended, ma'am. Conducting a neighborhood patrol. I will contact the sheriff if you do not depart immediately." The 3 men shared a glance. Subsequently, as swiftly as they had arrived, they reversed direction towards the truck and departed. Clara waited until their taillights were beyond the trees before she dashed back to the barn. She removed the tarp and unlocked the hatch. "They have departed," she said. "Hurry, we must assist you indoors." Wyatt Carter grumbled, but succeeded in ascending with her assistance. Upon her arrival in the living room, he appeared pallid, trembling, and incoherently muttering. She placed him on the couch and then hurried to the bathroom. She searched through drawers, extracting gauze, pads, alcohol, bandages, and any other available supplies. She returned with a bowl of warm water and a towel, her heart pounding against her ribs. "I am not a nurse," she stated, primarily to herself rather than to him. "Therefore, you must not succumb, cowboy." She commenced cleansing the laceration on his skull, biting her lip with each wince he exhibited. "Apologies, apologies." He remained silent, merely shutting his eyes, his jaw tightened. "This may cause a sharp sensation," she murmured before applying alcohol to the laceration adjacent to his rib cage. His entire body became rigid. He breathed gently, murmuring, already does. She attempted to smile, but it immediately diminished. You are fortunate that I located you prior to others. His eyes now opened very gently. You may be the unfortunate individual. Clara halted, the fabric in her grasp saturated with crimson. What is the reason behind their pursuit of you? I have acquired formidable adversaries. Substances, wagering. He murmured the truth. I conveyed the truth. An opportune location, untimely moment. Clara gazed at him. His look exhibited a steadfastness despite the anguish. Something profound, ancient, and fractured. Rest is necessary. We can converse in the morning. I will have departed by that time. She responded emphatically in the negative. You will remain here until I permit your departure. He emitted a single, dry, painful giggle. Your persuasiveness is remarkable, Miss Bennet. Clara Bennet. He nodded once before shutting his eyes once again. Clara remained by the couch for an extended period, gazing at the fire she had just ignited in the fireplace. Her hands quivered as she extended them to retrieve a blanket to drape over him. Her thinking urged her to contact the sheriff to report an injured man with ambiguous motives concealed in her residence. However, a more formidable force resisted. A subdued voice within her said, "He is not the true monster here." She stood quietly observing his faint yet steady breaths. Clara recognized her necessary course of action. She extinguished the porch light, secured the door, and remained by the sofa throughout the night, in anticipation of the shadow's return. The tempest had subsided by daybreak, leaving the world drenched and tranquil. Fog enveloped the meadow, shrouding the trees in an ethereal mist. Within the cabin, Clara proceeded with circumspection. She was no longer responding impulsively. Now commenced the reconsideration. What if she had merely sheltered a fugitive? What if those individuals returned? What if he perished on her couch? She transported a tray of steaming tea and toast into the living room. Wyatt remained unconscious, his face orientated towards the rear of the couch, his chest rising and falling with slow, regular breaths. That was a positive development. She placed the tray on the coffee table and adjusted the blanket higher over him. "Greetings," she uttered gently, kneeling beside him. "Are you conscious?" No reply. She extended her hand towards his forehead. "Temperate, excessively warm. You are experiencing a fever." She returned to the bathroom, where she discovered an antiquated thermometer and some non-prescription analgesics. She berated herself for failing to maintain a superior first aid kit. Upon her return, he was in the process of rousing. His brow creased, his lips separating. "Daniel." Clara became immobile. The name recurred, identical to the one he had uttered throughout the night. She positioned the thermometer between his lips prior to his ability to articulate further. He narrowed his eyes at her, perplexed. "You are exhibiting a fever," she stated, striving to maintain composure in her tone, "and you will not depart." He refrained from contesting. Allow her to measure his temperature. 180.1. You require antibiotics and hospitalization. "No," he said hoarsely. "They will locate me. I believe they have already done so. You are fortunate that I deceived them on your behalf." He adjusted his position slightly, grimaced, and locked eyes with her. "What prompted your action?" Clara did not respond immediately. She gazed at his visage, marred and scarred, yet still exuding a semblance of resolute dignity. She confessed her ignorance. "However, I believe I perceive something in your gaze. Perhaps fear or despair. Perhaps it was the way you gazed at me, as though I were your final opportunity." He smiled subtly. "Were you?" She experienced an overwhelming sensation of the unfamiliar. Appreciation or peril. It compelled her to rise abruptly. "If I become your nurse now, I aim to avoid any accidental harm. I have experienced worse." Clara shook her head, attempting to suppress a smile. She presented him with the tea, assisted him in sitting up slightly, and positioned the cup in his hands. "What is your name?" she inquired. He faltered. "Wyatt." "What is your surname?" "Only Wyatt?" Clara lifted an eyebrow. "Very well, just Wyatt. Please inform me of your circumstances." He imbibed a sip of the tea, thereafter exhaling a sigh. "Certain men dislike unresolved matters. That is ambiguous and frightening. I desire it to be more lyrical. Clara positioned herself opposite him, arms folded. You mentioned the concept of truth and the implications of disclosing it at an inappropriate moment. What is the significance of that? Wyatt remained silent for an extended period, his gaze fixated on the fireplace, where the flames danced softly. I attempted to reveal something. They silenced me. They now want to complete the task. He acquiesced. She inclined her body forward, her tone more resolute now. Wyatt, I am unfamiliar with your identity, but if I am jeopardizing my safety for you, I require more than ambiguous statements. What did you reveal? His lips constricted. A concealment at a location designated for safety. Is it a hospital? He gazed upward, taken aback. She fluttered her eyelids. You uttered something while asleep. Daniel and Drake Memorial. That is our medical facility. It was once. It is now confidential. Wyatt gazed at her in silence. That is correct, is it not? Clara stated. You possess a connection to that location in some manner. He placed the cup down with caution. Are you genuinely interested in knowing? I believe it is necessary for me to do so. Wyatt reclined, wincing slightly. Not at this moment. Clara desired to pursue further, although an element in his tone advised her to desist. She exhaled audibly, massaging her temples. Understood, she replied. However, should armed individuals reappear, I anticipate explanations. She scrutinized him, determined not to let them to harm him. You express that as if it were a prior commitment. I possess. The chamber descended into quiet. The fire emitted a gentle crackle. Outside, birds commenced their singing anew, as though the earth had progressed beyond its previous state. Clara rose and drew the drapes shut. She glanced to Wyatt, who appeared diminished in the dawn light. Not feeble, merely human. I will prepare some soup for you. It is the sole dish I can prepare that will not be harmful to you. He offered a faint smile. That constitutes a commendable beginning. As Clara proceeded to the kitchen, she acknowledged that her hands were unsteady, although her heart had inexplicably calmed. She was unaware of Wyatt's true identity. Not at this time. However, an instinct informed her that this man, this wounded stranger on her couch, was poised to alter everything. 48 hours elapsed. Wyatt was recuperating gradually. The edema on his jaw had diminished, and the contusions were transitioning from deep purple to muted yellow. Clara assisted him in relocating to the spare room, although he insisted on limping about the porch, inhaling the pine-scented air, claiming that the movement facilitated mental clarity. She permitted him, although she maintained a vigilant watch on the horizon each evening. She remained without definitive answers. He was elusive, courteous, yet cautious. He consumed her meal, expressed gratitude consistently, and even proposed to chop firewood once his strength was sufficient to wield an axe. He epitomized the ideal guest, yet he was also a man molded by darkness. One morning, Clara discovered him outside repairing the fence line with surplus wire and a set of corroded pliers. You are not required to work, she shouted from the porch. Wyatt glanced backward, his eyes narrowing against the incoming sun. I have little to provide aside from strength, he stated. You may provide your actual name. He smiled, however remained silent. Clara exhaled audibly. She descended the steps and rested against the fence post adjacent to him. You converse during your slumber, she remarked softly. I'm aware. You repeatedly mentioned Daniel and suggest that they were aware the dosage was incorrect. What was that? Wyatt's hands became immobilized on the wire. He remained silent for an extended while. Ultimately, he articulated, his voice subdued. Daniel was my sibling. Clara fluttered her eyelids. He died in a hospital, neither due to an accident nor because the illness was very severe. He perished due to someone's negligence and subsequent deception. She gazed at him. Drake Memorial. Wyatt acknowledged with a single nod. Were you a patient there as well? No. He locked eyes with her. I constructed it. Her breath was momentarily halted. Prior to her response, the morning tranquilly was disrupted. The gruff roar of engines reverberated across the broad pastures. Both individuals pivoted abruptly. Beyond the fence line, 3 black trucks advanced rapidly, their wheels stirring up dense clouds of dust, sunlight reflecting off their metallic surfaces like voracious creatures approaching. Clara's breath was momentarily halted. Wyatt released the pliers, his body tensing and jaw tightening. Inside, he snapped, his voice sharp as a whip crack. She objected to your going out there alone. I will not grant them another opportunity to target you. I'm not the individual they desire. You will be perceived as being associated with me. One of the men had already observed them, his arm extended through the window, pointing directly at them. Proceed, Wyatt commanded once more. Clara pivoted on her heel and dashed for the barn instead of the home. She propelled herself behind the substantial door, her heart racing in her ears. Observing through the fissure, she seen Wyatt, in a singular smooth motion, mount the back of a neighboring mare. Absent of saddle and bridle, driven solely by primal instinct and acute urgency. He struck his heels against the mare's sides, causing the horse to cry and surge forward. Wyatt grasped firmly as the rein lashed violently across the broad field. The trucks breached the outer gate, splinters scattering like shrapnel, tires screeching into the ground, engines roaring with fury. A sudden crack resonated. One of the individuals discharged a warning shot. Clara inhaled sharply, automatically crouching, her fingers gripping the fractured wood. Wyatt crouched close to the mare's neck, murmuring something audible only to the horse. They raced down the slope, hooves striking the ground, water splashing in gleaming arcs as they surged through the tiny creek. The vehicle fishtailed behind them, slipping over the muddy banks, its tires ejecting pebbles and dirt into the air. A man in the lead truck leaned out, the handgun shimmering icily in the sunlight. Travis Blackwell. Wyatt's gaze abruptly shifted to the forest ahead. Without hesitating, he pulled the reins forcefully. The mare abruptly altered course, exerting his muscles, and dived into the thick foliage. Fog coiled among the pines, enveloping them as if it were a sentient entity. In mere seconds, Wyatt disappeared into the fog. The vehicles came to a stop at the forest periphery, metal creaking. Doors were forcefully opened, and boots struck the ground. They entered on foot, weapons drawn, commanding with authoritative voices. Clara remained immobilized, her respiration labored, her heart pounding so audibly that she believed it was perceptible to others. 10 minutes and 20 seconds. A piercing, primal scream reverberated through the valley. Clara sprinted impulsively. Branches scraped her face. The mud clung to her boots, yet she continued onwards. She ascended the treacherous incline through the forest. And there they stood. In a fog-laden clearing obstructed by fractured trees, Wyatt stood solitary. Blood stained his temple, and his clothes was tattered and soiled. One of the assailants writhed on the ground, grasping his ribs. The remaining two advanced on Wyatt, weapons drawn. 3 versus 1. Wyatt remained unperturbed. With a primal shout, he charged at the nearest man, tackling him forcefully, resulting in both crashing into the mud, fists flailing. Grunts, expletives, the impact of bodies striking the ground. However, behind him, a click was heard. Sufficient. Travis snarled, his tone ominous and lethal. Wyatt became immobilized, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Clara positioned herself against a tree trunk. A muted cry ensnared in her throat. Then, sirens sounded high and piercing, slicing through the mist like a knife. Travis cursed vehemently. The soldiers hastily maneuvered, hauling their injured comrade, racing through the forest towards the trucks. Engines revived with a powerful roar. Clara faltered, her legs quaking. Amidst the fog, pulsating blue lights pierced the atmosphere. 2 patrol SUVs came to an abrupt stop. Deputies emerging with firearms drawn. Wyatt, bruised and bloodied, fell on his knees with his hands raised. The elderly constable with a gray beard squinted, then gradually lowered his firearm. "Son of a gun," he murmured. "That is indeed Wyatt Carter." Clara's reality shifted. "Carter," referring to Carter Memorial Hospital? She approached unsteadily, now perceiving Wyatt distinctly. All defenses have been depleted. No more secrets. simply unvarnished and irrefutable truth. Clara remained immobilized as the name reverberated in her mind. Wyatt Carter. She had already seen it in murmurs, in obscure headlines, and in local rumors regarding the enigmatic individual who constructed Carter Memorial Hospital and subsequently disappeared. Some labeled him a charlatan, while others regarded him as a martyr. No one possessed knowledge. She believed Wyatt was merely a wanderer, a man fleeing from personal issues. This was a storm decades in the making. While the deputies assisted him towards their SUV, Clara moved aside, her heart racing. Wyatt regarded her briefly, his visage inscrutable, bearing the burden of myriad unarticulated facts. The senior constable remarked, tipping his hat, "Ma'am, your statement is required." She acquiesced. Certainly. Wyatt was apprehended, not restrained with handcuffs, yet evidently not at liberty. Clara trailed in her truck, clutching the steering wheel with such intensity that her fingertips ached. She waited in the waiting room of the station, feeling numb. Eventually, the constable reappeared. "It appears that the cowboy you have been concealing is not an ordinary individual. He is Dr. Wyatt Carter." Clara blinked. Harvard-trained physician, located at Carter Memorial. Managed it until circumstances deteriorated. A fatality occurred. His younger brother, Daniel, allegedly overdosed. The board held Wyatt responsible. He vanished. Some individuals believed he committed suicide. It appears he has only gone into hiding. Clara scarcely perceived the remainder. Her thoughts whirled. Subsequently, she was escorted to a tiny chamber where Wyatt was seated, injured and wrapped in bandages. He gazed upward as she entered mute. She shut the door behind her. "You deceived me. I did not convey the truth," he replied gently. "There is a distinction. You informed me that your name was merely Wyatt. It is. Carter is a name I abandoned." "Why?" she inquired, arms crossed. "Because individuals perish when they disclose the truth. I endeavored to safeguard Daniel. He uncovered discrepancies in the hospital's pharmacy records, fabricated data, and perilous errors. He presented this information to me, and I assured him of my protection. The following day, he was deceased." Clara gasped. They attributed his death to an allergic reaction. However, someone altered his file posthumously. He was not even prescribed that medication. Who was responsible? She inquired. Travis Blackwell and 2 other board members were implicated. Daniel discovered evidence of their misconduct and embezzlement. Why not report it to the authorities? I did, but they dismissed my claims as mere grief. I attempted to disclose the information publicly, yet the board distorted the narrative against me. Within a week, my reputation was obliterated. Consequently, I withdrew to discreetly collect further evidence. "Until they located you once more," Clara remarked. Wyatt acknowledged her with a nod. "Travis must have discerned my return to Red Hollow." Clara averted her gaze, dabbing at her eyes. "I would have assisted you had you confided in me. I was reluctant to involve you in this. You have already done so." A prolonged silence ensued before Wyatt spoke, his tone gentler. "I doubted my survival that night. I was prepared for death. However, your arrival changed everything." Clara swallowed hard. "You rescued me, Wyatt, even prior to my awareness of your identity." He gazed upward, fatigue evident in his eyes, yet also sincerity. "I remain unaware of all the details," she stated, "but I recognize that you are not the antagonist they portrayed you to be, and I understand your affection for your brother." Wyatt's jaw tightened. He nodded. "I will assist you," Clara stated. "We will complete what Daniel initiated." Clara had not previously entered Carter Memorial Hospital since its transition in ownership. The establishment now resembled a corporate office rather than a medical facility. The polished floors, harsh lighting, and the reassuring aroma of antiseptic had been supplanted by a sterile, corporate scent. The antiquated brass plaque inscribed with Wyatt's name had been removed and substituted with a polished logo engraved in brushed metal. She stood in the lobby, grasping a tattered manila folder beneath her arm. Within it were duplicates of the documents Wyatt had provided her, including patient reports, pharmacy inventory lists, and the hastily written notes Daniel had composed prior to his demise. Wyatt had protected these pages for years as if they were sacred relics. Clara approached the reception counter and inhaled deeply. "I am here to see Dr. Morrison," she stated composedly. The receptionist arched an eyebrow. "Do you possess an appointment?" "No. Nevertheless, he will desire to see me. The subject pertains to Dr. Wyatt Carter." The receptionist hesitated. The name appeared to alter the atmosphere in the room. She grasped the phone, murmured a few words, and then gestured towards the hallway. "Third floor, final door on the right." Dr. Morrison was among the final individuals at the institution who had been acquainted with Wyatt before to the controversy. An esteemed surgeon, mature, prudent, and among the few who had not overtly aligned with either faction. Clara anticipated that this indicated he have a conscience. She discovered him seated at a desk, perusing a file with a magnifying lens affixed to his spectacles. Upon her entrance, he gradually raised his gaze. "May I assist you? I am Clara Bennett," she replied. "I possess information regarding the circumstances surrounding Daniel Carter and Wyatt." The mention of the name caused him to recoil. He reclined, scrutinizing her. "Proceed." She positioned the folder before him. "Wyatt is living. He has been in hiding since the tragedy, and now there has been another attempt on his life. Travis Blackwell and his associates." Dr. Morrison unsealed the folder and perused its contents. His gaze scrutinized Daniel's penmanship, the pharmacy records, and the counterfeit authorizations. She observed his countenance transition from apathy to incredulity, ultimately culminating in a subdued, escalating dread. "I have always suspected that something was amiss," he murmured. Daniel exhibited caution and brilliance. He meticulously verified everything. The allergy note in his file was absent the day following his demise. Clara positioned herself opposite him. Wyatt requires somebody to authenticate this, and somebody who retains credibility. Dr. Morrison gazed at her. "What about you? I am not a registered nurse. I am not a physician. I am merely a woman who discovered an injured man on her porch and chose to save his demise. I was unaware of his identity. However, I now possess that knowledge, and I trust him." He scrutinized her briefly before nodding slowly. "I retained copies of the previous staff reports. The board compelled us to obliterate all records, but I had already preserved them." Uncertain of the reasons, Clara and Wyatt meticulously examined files, reconstructing outdated rosters, medical records, and correspondence. Clara's heart raced as a coherent narrative emerged, revealing evident patterns of manipulation, forged signatures, and reissued prescriptions that had not been dispensed. Each document corroborated Wyatt's account. Upon her return to the station that evening, Wyatt occupied the same cot, engrossed in a worn paperback provided by an unknown source. She entered and placed the revised folder on his lap. "Dr. Morrison recollects," she stated, "and he possesses evidence." Wyatt blinked, astonished. "He assisted you. He trusted me, and he trusts you," he breathed, leaning forward and sifting through the documents. His hands quivered slightly. "This is it," he murmured. "This is what I required 5 years ago." Clara positioned herself beside him. "Let us ensure it remains unburied." They collaborated for several hours, with Wyatt directing her through names, dates, and connections. Clara recorded all information into a structured timeline on her laptop, while Wyatt annotated documents, emphasizing each forged signature, each modified dosage order, and each individual involved in obscuring the truth. Upon completion, Wyatt reclined, fatigued. "I never anticipated reaching this point." "Why not?" "Because the world progresses. Individuals forget. They allow matters to diminish. Justice is a protracted, harsh process, and by the time it prevails, the majority have ceased to pay attention." Clara regarded him, her tone subdued. "It is fortunate that you have someone continuing to search.